Gravity Falls is perhaps the most successful family-friendly animated show produced in the 2010s. Since its finale in 2016, a lot of shows have been compared to Gravity Falls, especially other Disney shows such as Amphibia and The Owl House. But for me, the show that perfectly conveys the spirit of mystery and childhood excitement that made Gravity Falls so good is Netflix's Hilda, a British-Canadian animated show based on a series of graphic novels by British cartoonist and comic book writer Luke Pearson, who, besides creating Hilda, was a screenwriter and a storyboard artist of another successful series, Adventure Time. Hilda is a truly beautiful show. I watched the first season all the way back in 2019, but for this video I binge-watched all 3 seasons, plus the full-length movie Hilda and the Mountain King. And this is my review. I'm gonna be talking about what made me love this show, what elements of it could be improved, and why you should give it a chance too, if you haven't seen Hilda yet. If we compare Hilda to Gravity Falls, there are 2 most notorious differences. First, Hilda has a very obscure overarching plot, and the show is more episodic. Up until the 5th episode of the last season, I couldn't even see where the story was even going, and couldn't predict what the finale would be. To be completely fair, the actual plot in Gravity Falls starts just at the end of season 1. But the difference is that the whole season 2 is dedicated to the big story revolving around journals, Bill Cipher, and Stanford Pines, and each episode adds a new piece to this puzzle. In Hilda we, for the most part, just explore this unique and fascinating world created by Pearson's imagination, but the exploration leads us to many different and intriguing finds. The second difference is that weird stuff is confined to Gravity Falls, as the town is surrounded by a magical dome, while in Hilda, weird and magical things are just a normal part of the world in which the main character exists. There are so many interesting ideas and concepts. The show doesn't take place in our world, but in some magical world that's greatly inspired by Nordic folklore, just like the works of Tove Jansson, a famous Finnish novelist of the 20th century. The main character is an 11-year-old girl named Hilda, who grew up in the wilderness with her mother Joanna. They lived in a peaceful solitude in a small cabin, but one night their home got destroyed by a giant, so Hilda and Joanna are forced to move to Trollberg, a huge modernized city, surrounded by devoted protected citizens from dangerous trolls who live in the wild. In Trollberg, Hilda goes to a local school and meets her best friends Frida and David, with whom she would later share her incredible adventures. The show works well with a lot of different genres and surprisingly with horror elements as well. Sometimes the level of intensity made me forget that I was watching a show for the whole family. Episode 6 of season 3, called The Forgotten Lake, is a legitimate survivor horror, and one of the best in the show. The show has a lot of creepy stuff, the trolls, and the Red King who adopts in the sewers of Trollberg. There are some references to pop culture as well in the show. Episode 4 of season 2 has a reference to Star Wars. Episode The Forgotten Lake seems to have a bunch of references to various horror movies, including Alien. Hilda is like a mix of Dipper and Mabel. From Mabel she's got her exuberance, her untamed adventurous spirit, although she is much more down to earth compared to Mabel. From Dipper, Hilda's got her sense of curiosity, wonder, and sharp mind. I like how realistically Hilda's relationship with her mother Joanna is portrayed here. When Hilda doesn't return home at dinner time, we see that Joanna is worried for her daughter. We see how she calls the parents of Frida and David, trying to find out where her daughter is. Hilda and Joanna fight just like an actual family. Hilda is the only truly close person in the whole world for Joanna, as both her parents are gone, and as her husband, from whom we don't hear a single word up until the middle of season 3, left the family when Hilda was still little. It's one of the most realistic portrayals of the mother-daughter relationship that I've seen in the media. Joanna wants to hold Hilda as close to her as possible. When Joanna and Hilda move to Trollberg, Joanna wants Hilda to find actual friends and spend more time with them. But at the same time, Joanna wants to spend her free time with Hilda. Because Joanna spent a good portion of her life in the wilderness, only having her daughter for company. Joanna doesn't know any better. Her overprotectiveness and Hilda's adventure nature collide. Essentially, the show is the story of Hilda and her mother, of how they go through difficulties in life together, both mundane and magical ones, and learn how to accept each other. And at the end they both find out the unexpected truth about their past, the truth that changes them both forever. Other characters are less developed, but they go through changes and transformation too. David learns how to be more courageous. Frida learns how to become a decent witch. All characters learn what responsibility means. And with them the viewers can learn too. Music for the show is written by Canadian composer Ryan Carlson. Soundtrack is a really beautiful mix of acoustic guitar with synthesizer and EDM. It gives off both western and sci-fi vibes, which shouldn't be surprising at all because Carlson grew up in rural Alberta and since childhood, just like Hilda, was surrounded by wilderness and mountains. Music helps to take viewers on a beautiful and magical journey and absolutely perfectly captures the spirit of the show. Just like the majority of modern shows, Hilda is not just a fun adventure, but also an important message. Humans live in a city called Trollburg, which was founded on a land taken from trolls by a man named Edmund Alberg, also known as the Troll Slayer. Edmund the Troll Slayer is a local hero and a legend for the citizens of Trollburg, even though his biggest achievement was, as the sobriquet suggests, slaying trolls and driving them off their native land where trolls lived hundreds, if not thousands of years before humans came. There is an obvious parallel with what Europeans did to Native American people. In the US, pilgrims who slaughtered natives for their land are still hailed and celebrated as national heroes, despite what they'd done. Humans surrounded the city with a huge wall that is supposed to keep the trolls outside. People hate trolls without even knowing anything about them, and, as we'll learn in the show, most of what people assume they know about trolls is actually not true and based on lies that they have been hearing for generations. Hilda, who has first-hand experience with trolls due to living outside the wall, and her friends are trying to fix the problem and change people's hearts even though they understand how hard it is. They are ready to go against the system to confront propaganda that the city patrol spreads against trolls and brings to school in order to indoctrinate children and convince them that trolls are dangerous and all of them hate humans, and humans must hate and fear trolls as well. The show is of course far from being perfect, and the main criticism from me is this: it criminally underexplores its own interesting lore. The world of Hilda has almost everything, including magic and witches. Witches are like a secret coven that possesses enormous power and keeps dangerous beings from another dimension in check. There is a big huge void of no return where witches throw people as punishment and where Hilda and her friends fight a big Lovecraftian monster. I expected that the finale would somehow be connected to this, but I was wrong. Frida becomes a witch's apprentice and learns how to control magic, but this doesn't play any significant role at the finale. I expected to learn more about witches and about magic, but was rather disappointed. Not to mention that one of my favorite characters is a witch named Kaisa, and I wish we had more of her in the show. The last point doesn't really count, that's just my personal preference. All in all, Hilda is a very cozy and heartwarming show with beautiful animation. I think this show is getting better from season to season. If while watching the first season I could find myself taking my phone and scrolling through notifications, the last season got my eyes glued to the screen. 77 minutes finale is one of the best episodes of any animated show from 2023. I should know that because I watched tons of animated stuff in the last year. I even made a whole video just discussing the 2023 animation that I watched. 2023 was a really good year for animation, in my opinion. Hilda and the Mountain King is a feature movie taking place between Season 2 and Season 3. It continues the storyline started in the finale of Season 2, and therefore it is mandatory to watch. I feel like mentioning this is very important because some people are skipping the movie thinking it's not really important, and then get confused why Season 3 doesn't directly continue the Season 2. Not to mention that the movie itself is extremely good. Hilda is a great show and it certainly deserves giving it a chance. It's a good example of how to make an interesting cartoon that can be watched at any age. Thanks for watching this video. I recently started my Disney Revival series where I talk about each and every Disney movie released in the Revival era. The first episode about the prince and the frog is already out, so take a look at it.